Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go live in five, four, three, two, one. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm LBJ. You're there and I'm here, and you're listening to the heartfelt truth. Welcome. Let me start off by saying, as I always do, that I hope my voice finds you in good health, spiritually, mentally, and physically. Not necessarily in that order, but all equally important to help us do this thing we call life. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me start off by saying thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come into your life for the next few minutes. I hope you find my voice somewhat inspirational, a little motivational, and just gives you another way of looking at things. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I know you've heard me say it time and time and time again, but I got to tell you this. I am excited to be back on this microphone. It seems like I have been gone forever. I mean, for you people that have been listening to me faithfully, dialing in, listen to me for a few minutes, and it's just been fantastic. Big thank you. I've seen people listening even when I wasn't putting stuff out. It just thank you. I mean, it's a whirlwind of thanks to you fine people here and around the world. All right, what happened is, ladies and gentlemen, I went away. I took a little hiatus. I took a break with my family. The summer was here. The last thing I put out, I believe I was trying to get people to, there's a short list of things that you can do with the summer winding down. And I haven't done anything since. And I tried to follow some of my own advice, and I went away and I spent some time with my family. And I got to tell you, this has been one of the great ones. It's been a fantastic vacation, and I definitely want to go into all the details. Soon enough. I don't want to bombard you with all of my information because I mean, I met people, I met CEOs. It's amazing, and we're definitely going to talk about all of that stuff along with my family. It's almost like every time we turned around, we were running into somebody, and the one person I wanted to run into, I didn't see, but that's another one, and I met someone else. So we're going to go into all of that. But listen. Here's something that's pretty interesting, and I have to put it out there. I mean, I just want to say this. I always, I work around young people, and I mean, all kids, but the focus is the young people, sending a message, a positive message in terms of, moving forward, moving into young adulthood, making the right choices and all that stuff. And I try not to preach to them. I try to be real. I try to get them to understand some of the roads that I might have traveled or their parents have traveled. That we're not trying to tell you exactly which way to go, but trying to get you to avoid some of those bumps and bruises that are going to happen, in young adulthood. So that's where that is, and my joy comes from the fact that the young people actually keep me in the loop. They keep me in the game. They keep me smart. I can't say it enough for you adults out there. If you're listening to me, don't be above the fact that these young people, they have minds of their own too, and they can teach you something. Don't be above not learning simply because you're older than them. I have these students, they teach me, and I'm like, and then I turn around and I get around some adults and I say this, and they, whoa, what do you know about that? It's hanging around the young people, man. They tell me exactly what's going on, and so you kind of be smart about it. So anyway, my daughter comes to me the other day, and she's got this whole deal. I was very surprised, and it's funny how things get around the circle with young people. They were talking about Spider-Man, and they were talking about the MCU, and all of these things in between Sony and Marvel, and I'm like, what are they talking about? I mean, I watch the movies. I love all the characters, but they be diving into the conversation of the aspect, the business part Sony and Disney and Marvel and all, and I found it very, very interesting. So what happened is I was in a conversation with a young man and a couple people in a room, and they started talking about it, and he was explaining it to me, and I actually felt like I was going to school. Now it's kind of funny because I asked a few questions, and he was explaining it to me, and I just really learned a little bit, about what this whole conversation is about. Spider-Man not being in the MCU or Disney, and this one's blaming that one, and maybe there's some misinformation out there. So what I wanted to do is I recorded it with his permission, and I want to play it for you, and then we can get some feedback on it. So here is a conversation with a very nice young man. A very nice young man. He's very intelligent. His name is Mark, and we're going to play it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be an open mic. This is in reference to Sony and Marvel, the controversy that they're having between Spider-Man and the Marvel Universe. I'm speaking with the young man who seems to be a little bit more knowledgeable about this subject than myself. So without further ado, I have his permission. His name is Mark, and Mark is going to give us a little insight on exactly what's going on with Sony and Marvel. And Disney. Go ahead, what's up?
So what's going on is Sony owns Spider-Man, right?
Okay.
And Disney owns the entirety of the every other character, right?
Right.
And the most recent Spider-Man film made over $1 billion at the box office.
Right.
And recently there was a meeting between the two parties, Sony and Disney, saying that Disney wants 50% of whatever the next box office projections are going to be, which is, because they realized, now this is $1 billion franchise that we have Spider-Man on. First Spider-Man movie to make $1 billion.
Okay.
We want half of it. But here's the problem. Everybody's up in arms and on Disney's side against Sony. But the problem is that Disney doesn't help make these movies at all. They only own the MCU.
Okay.
So what's happening is Sony owns this character, and they made $1 billion. Disney has currently had a 5% cut. They want 50% over that.
Okay, but here's a question. So, but doesn't Spider-Man belong? I mean, he's a Marvel character.
Yeah.
And Sony acquired the character.
Sony, the rights to Sony have been given to Sony. They were given a long time ago. I don't know exactly
when. So they've probably in the film.
They've been owning that character.
Okay.
Back in 2008 too, I think.
Right. Okay.
So what's happening is because they want Sony basically said you can't have our 50 billion our
half of our $1 billion.
Yeah, you really can't have half of our $1 billion.
Okay.
They want it because with the I can't talk right now. I did the tiniest bit of research, and I get so mad at these annoying little kids that think that Sony is the bad guy for taking Marvel out of or taking Spider-Man out of the MCU.
Right.
And it's completely unfair because all these kids we want Spider-Man in the MCU more, but Disney.
Explain to me real quick a little bit. I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
Go ahead.
Tell me a little bit more about the MCU. Explain the
Marvel Comics universe.
Marvel Comics universe, and Spider-Man is part of that, but Sony owns. Okay. And they made $1 billion on this movie.
Yeah, they basically let Disney
Sony owns it, then how does Disney own it?
Well, it's because Disney owns Marvel. Ladies and gentlemen, real quick, that's just another gentleman, a friend of mine, Tom. Tom just chimed in. Disney owns. Sony has the rights.
Sony has the rights to Spider-Man. They don't have the rights to any of the other characters in that universe.
So they could still make standalone, just
that
aren't involved.
But they can't involve him with any other interact with any other character.
So one of the main arguments this is what I wanted to say. One of the main arguments against this whole cutoff, this whole cut tie, is that Disney made the Spider-Man, the solo Spider-Man movies, that being Homecoming and Far From Home.
Right.
But if you do the tiniest bit of research and you go on Google and you Google who funded Spider-Man Homecoming, you realize that it was co-funded by a company called Lone Star Funds, which is a third-party equity company. They funded 25% of that movie, and Sony Sony paid for the rest. So that whole argument where Disney pays for the film to be made, it's not true.
But what's happening is people are saying that Disney has some creative aspect of the film. So they're assuming that they made some type of investment in the film. That part I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
From what I read, the only role that Marvel had in the creation of the standalone Spider-Man films is something that's called what was it? Creative assistance.
Okay, that's fair.
And I don't even, what does that even mean? So John Watts was the director, and he's not owned by Marvel, right? So, and Tom Holland isn't owned by Marvel. They're all Spider-Man's owned by Sony, and that's really the only thing that matters. So if Sony wants to take him out of the MCU, they're completely in the right to do that.
Okay.
And Disney wants 50% of the profits of a movie that they don't make. You know,
didn't have their hands on it.
and they want 50% of a property they don't own and they don't produce. Sony is the one who distributed the film. Columbia Pictures, which is a Sony company, co-produced it with Marvel. But again, like I said, I read, don't quote me on it, that Marvel's only role in the creation was creative assistance. With big quotation marks.
Now,
what I think happened is they decided that, like, well, we don't want them to put in anything. Basically, creative assistance, in my opinion, it was probably oversight.
Right.
Oversight on Disney.
Yeah, they don't want to probably destroy the MCU.
It's like, let's make sure that Sony doesn't make a script that's too different from our normal setup of our normal film structure. Right?
Well, they listen. Sony did include Iron Man for a brief moment in the film. So I mean,
yeah, that was probably
part of that creative assistant thing. It was short, but Iron Man did show up. So there's where the controversies.
He didn't. Yeah, he was definitely a side character.
Yeah, he wasn't definitely a main.
So that might have been, they might have needed Marvel's creative assistance in order to
incorporate
Iron
him into
Man
that,
allowed
to be in the film. Yeah.
But it's such a stupid idea on Disney's end. And 5% of $1 billion, not to them, still a lot of money, right?
Yeah. So listen. Disney made $75 billion in profit in 2018. So
they don't even really need the 50%, do they?
Well, listen. That's interesting. Listen, thank you. I appreciate it. You kind of clearing that up. You did a little bit of research more than I could have expressed, and I wanted the people in my world to hear that, and I appreciate it. Tom, thank you for chiming in for a split second there and kind of filling me in. I kind of knew the MCU, Marvel Comic Universe, and I'm like oblivious in my mind when I'm listening to it. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I do think it's ridiculous.
So did you wolf down the whole thing?
That's a good conversation. Thank you very much.
No problem.
What I want to say is, isn't it amazing? I mean, this is some of the things that I learned from these young people. And it was a conversation that's something that was brought to me from my daughter, and I really didn't understand it. And somehow I came across this conversation with the young man, Mark, and he kind of put that out there. And I said, you know what? I'm going to record this if you don't mind. We're gonna put this out there and let other people pass their opinions on it. So obviously, I'm a Disney fan, love Disney. I think they're fantastic. The business aspect of it all is really not my forte. However, I will tell you this, part of my next podcast, which I'm going to put out, is I have to share with you, ironically, this conversation with this young man and my daughter came up after the fact that we had went to Disney, and ironically, you're not going to believe this, my son actually took a picture with the CEO of Disney, Bob Iger. How much and how interesting of a conversation that would have been if I had that kind of information and conversation when I saw him down in Walt Disney World. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. A very interesting conversation. I promise you, I will definitely put out and give you all the information and all the feedback on my little hiatus, my little getaway with the family. Absolutely fabulous. fun-filled, celebrity-filled, surprises. It was a whole bunch of fun. But I wanted to put this out there just to kind of keep the conversation going on in terms of Sony and Disney and a lot of young people who are really concerned about the MCU and where it's going. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, as I always say, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come into your life for the last few minutes. I hope you found my voice somewhat inspirational, a little motivational. I just gave you another way to look at some things. And listen, I am going to give you all the feedback and all the information on my little vacation with my family and friends. And as I always say, please take care of yourself. Take care of your families, because family is important. And if you see somebody that needs a helping hand, stick yours out and try it. See if you can help them. I believe this one act really, really will make the world a better place. And it's going to be the one thing that helps you on your journey to becoming the best person that you were meant to be. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm LBJ. You're there, and I'm here. And you've been listening to the heartfelt truth. We will talk again.